All right. So we are back with another quick update. This is going to be a long-term forecast. If you've been on any weather social media type of stuff, really the past week, everybody's been saying there's going to be this big uptick in severe weather through the middle of the U.S. Through about the 18th through like the 22nd. So we're going to shed some light on that. Right now, this is the GFS ensembles. I've got the 500 millibar height and wind mean. So what that means is basically each one of the members is being averaged out to show one concise picture of what's going to happen. So here's some of the disagreements between the two models. Oh yeah. So here's the Euro depiction. Same date, same time, Wednesday, about 8 a.m. So both of them have this little cutoff forming southwest of California. The GFS is a little bit stronger with it, and it also features what I think is more likely to happen is some lead short waves out in front. So this on Wednesday, the 16th, might yield a little bit of a severe weather risk into Oklahoma. But as you see, this large trough over the East Coast, that will have just went through the central US and you'll be under northwest flow for several days prior to the 16th. So moisture is going to be a bit of a concern with whatever
Right.
happens on the 16th, I believe. You might get some high base cells, but as we play this out, and there's likely to be probably at least one or two more short waves embedded in this. Once we play this out a little bit more, by the 18th, you get this broad scale troughing, a little bit of a zonal flow as we get into the Midwest. But as that turns a little bit more southwesterly, we are likely to see cyclogenesis along the Rocky Mountains somewhere, likely going to be around the Kansas, Nebraska area, I think. And then that is the scenario in which we would see the classic plains dry line setups take place where
Hmm.
there's just this broad scale troughing. All the ingredients would be in place by this point. You'd have enough moisture return to really get something going here. Now, the European model differs in that it does not show any real shortwave action coming in. You're under this zonal flow, a little bit of a ridge even builds in. So I think with the Euro, you would see even more moisture pull in. And then eventually by, I believe, the 18th, yeah, that's when it really starts to kick out. That's when your severe weather threat would really come in based on the European model depiction of things, but you have a very negative, not negative, very positively tilted uh, large scale trough back in here compared to the GFS, which shows it a little less closed off, still positively tilted, which really doesn't entirely matter for this kind of setup. The tilt, you'll still see storms either way out here. If it were negatively tilted, you would see a lot more storms and it would probably move out faster. But this is going to stick around for a couple days. And when you get this just large scale southwesterly flow across the Midwest and the southern plains like that, usually you'll just see day after day of dry line events. So big hail, definitely going to be seeing some big hail. Tornado threat, too early to even call that, but I would assume that somewhere would get some substantial type of tornado threat off of this, depending on the moisture quality.
Probably
Uh,
focused along that dry line. Yeah.
yeah. And then as we head further in with that euro, so now we're on the 19th, 20th, this is where the model starts to kind of diverge within itself. You still have that big trough finally kicking out east of the Rockies, and a lot of your flow is now concentrated further south. But as we get past the 20th, that's when things would begin to kick off to the east, but you start to lose a little bit of that model clarity because the members of the ensemble really start to diverge. That doesn't happen as much on the GFS ensembles. So we kick it out past the 20th. And it's also focusing on Texas as well. A lot of that flow might be shunted down over the Texas, Arklatex area. So after a bit of a break across regions that have just been hammered through March and now April, looks like they're going to be back in play. But for now, definitely around the 20th, the 18th, looks like Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma is well in play for a severe weather threat. Again, this is going to be dependent on moisture return and as well as the strength of the dry line and the capping inversion. The theme for this year, it appears, is that the cap is going to be a little too strong because of the expansive drought over the southwestern U.S. A lot of dry air and dust is getting kicked up each storm system, and it seems to be just killing the storms out here when you have some weaker forcing mechanisms in play. So we'll see what happens with that. The signal is definitely there. And then by the time we get past the 22nd, everything's pretty murky. We just kind of get
What I
this
noticed.
entirely zonal flow, which that's not going to be the case. There is going to be some amplified trough somewhere in this, but yeah, even on the GFS, it starts to wonk out and just go zonal everywhere. A
That
little bit.
that's the model's low power mode. For you, those of you who don't know, beyond 120 hours, which is 5 days, the models shift into a lower power mode to conserve power and processing. And so that's why, like Caleb was saying, the further out you go, the more the model starts disagreeing, and it's because it's running on less data and lower power. Generally, the higher confidence is inside those 5 days. So as this week progresses, we'll have a much better idea of what's going on.
And just for fun, right now, I'm going to pull up the dew point mean. So this is again the same thing. Every model member is going to be averaged out to show basically one most likely outcome, pretty much. So as you can see, most of the moisture is shunted to the south. This is about the time that northwest flow is coming in, and then this is as that short wave was beginning to kick out into the Oklahoma area. So you can see a little bit of moisture return. That could be something Wednesday the 16th. When you start to see mid 50s dew points at minimum, severe weather is possible with that. You can get supercells. They'll probably be big hailers if you have dew points in the mid 50s. But if temperatures are low enough or some boundary interactions occur, you
Yeah.
can still have tornadic storms with this, but it's just slightly less likely to occur. And then as we advance it out, trough continues to move east. You get a little bit more moisture return. And then by the time we get past the 20th, things get murky again. Although you can see it wants to hint at a little bit of a northward surge with those 40-degree dew points working their way up into Iowa. So some of the ensemble members must be sniffing some type of low up in this area, probably as that larger scale trough kicks out and it's just so positively tilted, something pops up in this region. Let's see what the Euro thinks. I imagine it's going to be fairly similar with the moisture return. So we're on the 12th. Loading a little slow. Come on. There we go. So there's that northwest flow. Another front works its way down. And then we're on to the 16th. Moisture return. More moisture return. And this one didn't have that short wave in the front of the big
Right.
trough. So there might be a little bit more wide open of a warm sector for this one. And that appears to be what it is showing. You got just
More of a Dixie
expansive.
oriented.
Yeah. I mean, it was still showing a positive tilt, but that usually will yield a pretty wide warm sector because you got to think your front's probably going to be draped like this, and then your low, let's say it's just up here, your warm front's way out there. So good moisture return on both models being indicated would definitely enhance the threat. Let's see, a little bit further out. Once again, kind of in line with the GFS, some of the Euro members are sniffing something being located up here relative concerning a surface low pressure. That's why the moisture is getting pulled up and to Iowa and stuff like that. So we'll have to wait and see. It'll be an interesting thing to watch as
Something
this comes through.
something to note as well is the as those low pressure systems, like you were saying, pull moisture up into the Midwest and through Dixie and Tornado Alleys as well. It's also pulling moisture over the state of Florida where we're at, And when I'm seeing dew points getting into the mid 60s, that's telling me we may start seeing possibly, depending on, other factors, there may be a return of the sea breeze a little early this year. Um, we really want to see 70s, low 70s dew points for those sea breeze storms to really get firing the way that we're used to them. But the fact that you've got 64s and 65s on both models is telling me that sea breeze season may start a little early, or we may at least get a week or so of a preview. Um, Also, just real quick, an interesting thing to note, if you are in Florida, there's no rain chance, right? Like yesterday, and all of a sudden we had this storm system go through. That was a neat little interaction with a dry line, which doesn't normally come through Florida, but a dry line boundary kicked out ahead of the incoming cold front, and we got a surprise region of storms. That dry line acted kind of like a mini front. Some areas got an inch and a half of rain up towards Clearwater, between Clearwater and Tampa. So there was some really solid rainfall amounts on a day that originally was forecast to get no rain. So it was really cool last night to see a nice round of thunderstorms come in. That was some rare dry line action. We don't normally see a dry line in Florida, so that was pretty cool to see.
And then here's what he was talking about with the potential for sea breeze storms. So right now I'm at 850 millibars. So what we really want to see with this is this high pressure that is currently being depicted as just east of Florida. We want that more down here. That way we have southeasterly flow, and that would promote southeasterly flow at the surface as well. Right now, it's still going to be working against kind of a zonal westerly flow aloft. So we could see sea breeze storms kind of similar to what we saw last week, where both boundaries just have to slam together and then it just zips up and down throughout the kind of the middle part of the state. But again, since this is ensembles, it is probably going to bias a little bit towards the west with the position of the high. I don't think it's going to be parked there the entire time like it's being shown right now on the Euro ensembles. Let's see if the GFS ensemble ends up moving it off to the southeast. So I think that's what's probably going to happen. There we go. It slides through. And yeah, so
Slides
this
it off to the east. Yep.
is that ridge a little bit, and we end up with southeast flow through like the bottom half of the state, and then it gets a little wonky up here. So we'll see. It'll depend on that high pressure decides to sit on.
Right.
This looks a little better. Big fetch of southeasterlies, and then yet again, there's your moisture funneling in. So we will see what happens, but severe weather signal for this region all the way through here, definitely lighting up once again. Sorry if you live in Arkansas, Missouri, Louisiana, Tennessee, you're probably sick of rain at this point, but you were getting fires not too long ago, so you can't get it good either way. You can't have
Nope.
nice dry weather, you can't have nice wet weather. Welcome to spring. It's pretty rough.
Yep. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes.
But I think that'll be all for us today. Uh, Enjoy your weekend. We will be back with further updates as we get closer to the date
Definitely.
of interest. Till then, enjoy the nice weather. We've got a nice break coming. I think the only severe weather risk is up in like Montana today. It's a marginal risk for wind. So I don't think we'll see too much out of that. And then Monday, there's actually a little slight risk being highlighted somewhere in this area, I think. I also don't think we'll see too much out of that. I think it's mainly for wind and hail, kind of like yesterday was. Um, Not like yesterday, but the day before, Thursday, whatever, April 10th, I think the day was. I think it's going to be similar to that, little splitting cells, eventually clustering into a line. But we'll see. We'll see you later, guys.
Good.